Hey, how's it going, guys? Want to talk a little bit about Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. Played about 4 to 5 hours of it yesterday, and I typically don't, come on the day after a game comes out and give you guys my initial impression. I play games just like you guys. Day it comes out, I'm playing it, and by that point, all the reviews and stuff are out, but some of you guys have been asking for me to give you guys my initial impression of games a little bit faster as they come out. So with Ratchet and Clank, I figured this is as good of one to talk about as any other. Again, I put about 4 to 5 hours into it yesterday, so definitely not, close to beating the game or anything like that. I am going for the Platinum Trophy on a single playthrough, and for those of you that are going for the Platinum Trophy, bear in mind, there are a few missable trophies. I believe there's 1 or 2 missable trophies, so just look into that if you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I think a lot of people are okay with playing through the game multiple times. I'm playing through the game on the normal difficulty. I have to say, it's very, very easy, so I might do another playthrough on the hardest difficulty and see how that treats me, because on normal, I understand this game does target a younger demographic. I mean, anybody of any age can play it, but the normal difficulty is really, really easy. But I'm still having an absolute blast with the game. Now, right away, when I boot this game up, what really just caught my eye right off the bat was the attention to detail to things like the lip syncing. I thought the lip syncing was incredible. It might just be me putting too much focus into one game just because I had heard about the visuals over and over again. So when I was going into this game, I was like, okay, I'm gonna look for the most minute of details to really see what sets this game apart. The lip syncing, I think, is excellent, and also I think, obviously, the level of detail on Ratchet himself, Clank, is ridiculous. And bear in mind, I'm not even playing in the fidelity mode. A lot of you guys are probably playing in the fidelity mode, 4K, improved visuals, ray tracing, and then 30 frames per second. I'm playing straight performance. I've turned off ray tracing, so I am playing performance, 60 frames per second, and I still think the game looks absolutely incredible, and it plays so smooth that, yes, to me, 60 frames per second is going to be the most important thing this generation for me. I'm going whichever performance mode or graphical mode that gives me 60 FPS, but for those of you that are playing in the fidelity mode, I'm sure that the game looks even better. But I can tell you, playing in the 60 frames per second mode with ray tracing off, the game still looks incredible, and I'm really happy with the visuals and the frame rate that I'm getting. Obviously, from a gameplay standpoint, this is the Ratchet and Clank you know and love. It really retains the fundamental aspects that everybody has loved Ratchet and Clank for the last decade plus, really 2 decades, and it does that so in a next-gen level where the particle effects look amazing, the platforming has some new nice twists to it, and they've added some new elements to it that I think make it a little bit more engaging. But overall, from a fundamental standpoint, this is the Ratchet and Clank you know and love. And so far, the story has been rather engaging. Now, I'm still relatively early on, I don't think I'm halfway through the game yet, but I found it rather compelling. And again, that humor in Ratchet and Clank, the way that they can figure out how to tell a relatively serious story, but while also throwing in humor, and quality humor at that. I find myself laughing pretty regularly while playing the game. They do a really good job at that, where it's not too much humor where it just becomes way too comedic and you can't take the game seriously at all, but they find that right balance where, yes, it's a funny game, but at the same time, when it needs to be serious, you can get serious about the game, and it can be a rather emotional experience and actually have some, I don't want to say heart-wrenching moments, because that might be pushing it a little bit too much. I mean, there were definitely moments like that in Ratchet and Clank: A Crack in Time, but I wouldn't say so far there has been any heart-wrenching moments, but definitely some things where you can put the comedy aside for a second bit, you can go into this game, and you can experience the game with a serious tonality as well. And how Insomniac really weaves the two, I think they do a great job at that, because sometimes if you do throw in too much comedy, it just gets a little bit too much, and then you can't take anything seriously. But Ratchet and Clank has always done a good job finding the happy balance between the two. And yes, I know that there are a lot of people that are of the mindset, this is a $70 game, is there enough content? And obviously I haven't beaten the game yet, but I can tell you, in every world that you go to, you do have some additional content that will take your time up. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be something that is as epic as an open world RPG with tons of side quests or anything like that. Ratchet and Clank has never been that, it never will be that. However, there are some things that can take your attention, and there is additional content to be done, especially if you're going for that Platinum Trophy. It's going to take you a little bit longer than, let's say, 7 to 8 hours if you just bum rush through the game. And I don't know exactly how long it is if you bum rush through the game, but typically speaking, you can bum rush through a Ratchet & Clank game pretty quickly. I wasn't expecting this to be a very, very lengthy experience, but it doesn't need to be, because what Insomniac is going for here is every world and every section of the game feels unique, it feels alive, and they've put an incredible amount of effort into it. Now, if you elongated this game to being a 30-hour experience, a 40-hour experience, or anything like that, I'm sure Insomniac could do it, but then the experience starts becoming a little bit diluted. I would rather take something short, sweet, gets all the content in, you get all your S in, and it's at an incredibly high level, which they absolutely do it with Ratchet & Clank, instead of being a long, drawn-out platformer that, yes, might give you a little bit more additional content, but then you're diluting the experience quite a bit. Tell the story you need to in Ratchet & Clank, have it at a high level the whole way through, and I'm going to be very happy with it. And so far, that is exactly what Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart has given me. And I will also say, going from section to section, gameplay style to gameplay style, because sometimes you're fighting waves upon waves of enemies, sometimes you're doing a puzzle, sometimes you're doing more of a platforming section. This game does a phenomenal job with the pacing. That is something that I noticed probably 2 to 3 hours in. Like, it never felt like it was getting redundant. Once I felt like I was doing a little bit too much shooting and killing enemies and things like that, okay, here's a puzzle. Okay, here's something that takes the experience down a little bit. I thought Uncharted 2 did a really good job with its pacing as well, but I think Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart does an even better job with that, and pacing is something so important that some games get wrong, but I feel like Ratchet & Clank really gets it right, where it keeps you engaging. Like, sometimes when I'm playing games, I'm not like a lot of you guys where I can go 8 to 9 hours straight playing a game. Like, there are a few games in my lifetime where I could do that with, but a lot of games I play for an hour and a half, 2 hours, then I do have to like kind of mentally check out. For Ratchet & Clank, I had like a 5-hour gaming session last night, and that was my first time playing the game, and never did I get bored. I was just incredibly tired, and I finally had to go to bed, and that's when I called it quits with playing Ratchet & Clank last night, but I was engaged the whole way through, and for someone like me to say that, where I do find games to get a little bit redundant, probably a little bit quicker than a lot of you guys, especially with these larger open-world experiences, that tells me that the pacing was at an incredible level. And again, if you had a longer experience, that pacing probably would have gotten a bit diluted, and you probably couldn't have kept up that good of a pacing the whole way through. We'll see how I feel by the time I get to the end of the game, but so far, it's been completely on point, and that's something I didn't see brought up a lot. Like, a lot of people are talking about the visuals, a lot of people are talking about the crazy weapons, and of course, that's Ratchet & Clank's kind of MO, and the visuals are incredible, but man, the pacing in this game just keeps it so engaging. And that's probably been one of the biggest standouts to me. Now, I will end this video by saying Ratchet & Clank is doing such a great job of selfishly, let me reiterate that, selfishly, I do not want cross-generational games anymore. Ratchet & Clank is the type of experience, if this was a cross-gen game, I'm sorry, it just would not have been possible. I know that there are developers saying they don't feel handicapped by the PS4, they don't feel handicapped by making it a cross-gen game, and I know that's what you gotta say in interviews, but let's be honest. Visually, you can do something so much more if it was a PlayStation 5 exclusive. You can say the same thing if a game was exclusively designed for the highest of highest-end PCs, which I actually have a pretty decent PC, and yeah, if they wanted to make games exclusive to the highest of highest-end PCs, I could be happy about that. I selfishly could be happy about that. At the end of the day, I understand this is a business. I understand not a lot of people have PlayStation 5s right now, so they gotta make these games like God of War and Horizon cross-generation, but man, just thinking about the possibilities that we could have if these were true PlayStation 5 exclusives, because Ratchet & Clank does a really good job showcasing it. I mean, Demon's Souls and Returnal did a pretty good job. Man, Ratchet & Clank is on another level, and I think those of you guys that have played the game know what I'm talking about. But there you have it, kind of all over the place, but I wanted to give you guys my initial impressions of the game. If you are on the fence about spending $70 on the game, I can understand. I'm not going to tell you that it's a slam dunk spend $70, because at this point I'm buying like pretty much every game that comes out to talk about on the channel, and I'm in a lucky spot like that. It is a shorter experience. You gotta go into it expecting that, but man, every single minute of this game has just been a blast so far, and maybe I'll talk about it more in depth by the time I finish it. You know, everybody's got their reviews up, the big outlets, but if you guys want to see more videos like this, I'm definitely open to doing it. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking about the game. I'm absolutely loving it so far, so sound off with your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.